From miner's son to national leader. Once a humble laborer's son in a diamond mine, Ibrahim Traoré had risen to become one of Africa's most formidable leaders. Now seated in the grand meeting hall of the presidential palace in Ouagadougou, he faced the very corporations that once profited from the land where his father had died. Executives from the world's top mining companies, including Atlantis Mining, Way International, and Northern Resources, gathered to negotiate for rights to the Blue Diamond Mine, a site recently revealed to contain massive lithium reserves. President Traoré, said Charles LeBlanc of Atlantis Mining, we're offering $1.2 billion and 20 years of tech support. Without us, you lack the capacity to operate this mine. Traoré smiled calmly. You're mistaken, Mr. LeBlanc. Over 200 engineers have graduated from Burkina Faso Technical University in the last 2 years. Our lithium processing facility is already under construction. Way International tried to sway him. This decision is premature. Your offer isn't even 5% of its true value, Traoré replied. This mine holds 15% of the world's known lithium reserves, worth over $50 billion. Shocked silence filled the room. Then Traoré opened a folder. Here are our terms. Burkina Faso retains full ownership of the mine. We will partner only in processing and global distribution. The press documented every word. Outside, the Burkinabe military secured the mine, peacefully disarming private foreign security forces. The West reacted swiftly. France called it unacceptable nationalization and threatened sanctions. The U.S. said it undermined global investment security. China advised caution and dialogue. In response, Traoré convened his cabinet. His finance minister reported that French banks had frozen accounts and the IMF suspended aid. Activate Plan B, Traoré said. Engage agreements with Russia and Iran. Request payment for lithium and gold. The foreign minister added, we've received support from Mali, Niger, Guinea, and positive signs from BRICS nations. That night, Traoré addressed the nation. They showed us only the diamonds, but hid the lithium, the real treasure. My father died in this mine. Today we reclaimed it in his name, and for every Burkinabe worker. Tough days are ahead. Prices may rise, but freedom has a cost, and we're ready to pay it. Crowds flooded Ouagadougou's streets, chanting, Burkina Faso belongs to the people. Days later, sanctions tightened. Western banks severed ties. The media painted Traoré as a dangerous radical. But Traoré remained firm. We've prepared. Our food independence plan now covers 80% of needs. If necessary, we'll defend every inch of our land. New deals followed. Russia and Brazil signed trade pacts. China offered to build a lithium facility. Turkey pledged mining equipment. Just give us 3 months, he told the public. Then our lithium enters the global market. A wave of Pan-African solidarity rose. Youth movements across the continent rallied behind what they called the Traoré model. Hashtags like Yuri, Our Blue Diamonds, and Africa Rises went viral. Then came the first real test. A midnight coup attempt led by General Boubacar, backed by French intelligence. But Traoré's forces were ready. The coup was stopped in hours. Boubacar and his co-conspirators were detained. Documents showed foreign funding behind the operation. Rather than seek vengeance, Traoré called Boubacar to testify publicly. General, he asked calmly, I'm not here to punish. I want to know, why betray your people? Boubacar trembled. The camera rolled. The truth, once hidden, was now fully exposed, and a new chapter for Africa had begun. The betrayal and the turning point. The French offered me 5 million euros, General Boubacar admitted, his voice barely audible. They promised me a villa in Europe and a new life. President Ibrahim Traoré leaned forward. And what of your country's independence? The future of your people? What was their price? The general lowered his head in shame. Silence filled the room. Turning to the cameras, Traoré spoke with calm authority. This is how the West continues to control Africa, not through invasion, but by exploiting our weaknesses from within. The broadcast stunned both domestic and international audiences. Despite France's official denial, the evidence of their involvement in the failed coup attempt was undeniable. In Europe and America, public debate erupted about the role of Western powers in undermining African sovereignty. The struggle for survival for 6 months, Burkina Faso endured relentless economic pressure. Western banks severed ties. The IMF withheld funds. Basic goods became scarce. Prices soared. Protests flared across the country. Each night, Traoré addressed the nation on television. Freedom has a cost, my brothers and sisters, but it is still less than the cost of centuries of exploitation. Then a shift in the global economy offered an unexpected reprieve. Lithium supplies began to tighten, threatening electric vehicle production worldwide. As prices surged, the significance of Burkina Faso's Blue Diamond Mine, home to 15% of known lithium reserves, became undeniable. At a press conference, Traoré announced, "We are open to the world, but on equal terms. We will never again relinquish control over our resources." Volkswagen was the first to respond, striking a deal with Burkina Faso that included not just lithium supply, but the creation of a technical training institute. Soon, Tesla, Ford, Toyota, and others followed. The internal battle. Despite external victories, challenges within the country mounted. The mine's operations were plagued by technical issues, logistical obstacles, and workforce shortages. President Traoré visited the mine frequently, working alongside engineers to troubleshoot problems. One night, as he worked late, an elderly miner named Konaté knocked on his door. "My father worked here." "So did his father," Konaté said. "For generations, we gave our land's wealth to foreigners. That ends now. But it's not enough to take back the mine," he continued. "We must use this wealth justly." He handed the president a worn notebook filled with names, workers who had died, fallen ill, or been injured in the mine over the last 30 years. "We need a fund for them and their families, for all miners, healthcare, education, retirement." Traoré nodded. "You're right. Reclaiming the mine is only the beginning. We must ensure justice." The next morning, the government established the Miners' Justice Fund, allocating 15% of the mine's revenue to improve the lives of miners and their families. A new era begins. 8 months later, sanctions were lifted. Western banks resumed relations, but the terms had changed. The Blue Diamond model, mandating local ownership and value-added processing, became a new benchmark. 1 year after nationalization, the area around the mine had transformed. A new community of over 2,000 workers and their families thrived. Schools, hospitals, and housing stood where only dust and hardship had existed. Engineers from China and Russia helped train local talent. The Blue Diamond Technical Academy was producing the first generation of Burkina mining specialists. During a visit, Traoré brought students from across the country. "This mine," he told them, "is no longer just a mine. It is a symbol of our independence and our future." An elder worker led Traoré to a memorial built over the site of a deadly collapse in 1994. At the top of the engraved names was Amara Traoré, the president's father. "We made this," the man said. "We won't forget them anymore." Traoré touched his father's name, tears welling in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. That same day, the first processed shipment of lithium was ready, worth over $500 million. At the ceremony, Traoré declared, "Today, we're not just exporting minerals, we're exporting dignity, our right to decide our future." Journalists who once called his decisions reckless now called them visionary, legacy, and inspiration. A year later, Traoré stood at his father's grave, joined by the first graduating class of the mining academy. "My father left me a small blue diamond," he said, "but his true legacy was a belief that our land's wealth must belong to its people." Behind him, the new Amara Traoré lithium processing plant rose above the horizon, Africa's first fully domestic facility of its kind. The profits were funding roads, hospitals, and schools. The mine's workforce was now entirely Burkinabe. A young miner stepped forward, offering the president a ring made from a blue diamond extracted from the very vein where his father had worked. "Now," he said, "every miner's family receives health care and education. No child will have to grow up without a father." Traoré put the ring on his finger. Though Western powers continued subtle economic pressures, Burkina Faso stood firm. The nation's fate was finally in its own hands. "When my father died in this mine, I was 8, said Traoré. That day I made a promise. One day the wealth of our country would belong to its people. A continental shift. Within 2 years, the Traoré model inspired change across Africa. Nigeria reclaimed its oil. The DRC took control of its cobalt. South Africa reasserted control over its platinum. The continent was changing. At an African Union summit, Traoré said, "Resources bring true wealth only when we can process them and offer them to the world as value." Despite efforts by Western powers to destabilize these movements through coups and economic manipulation, the tide had turned. Traoré gave a landmark speech at the International Trade Union Confederation in Geneva. To change the global system, we must start by bringing justice to our own lands. When a miner in Burkina Faso can provide a future for his children, that is what real wealth looks like. Charles LeBlanc, once a powerful mining executive, watched Burkina Faso's success from the sidelines. Atlantis Mining's value had plummeted by 40%. He resigned in disgrace. In his final interview, he said simply, "Perhaps the era of exploiting Africa's resources is over." Epilogue. 5 years later, Traoré was invited to speak at an international mining conference in London. The same Western media that once called him a radical now hailed him as a reformer. As he entered the hall, Robert Wilson, former CEO of Liberty Resources, stood up and extended a hand. "President Traoré, it's an honor." Traoré shook his hand, smiled, and said, "Mr. Wilson, we met 5 years ago. I'm sure you remember." Wilson lowered his head. "Yes, but we didn't understand each other back then. Now I see you were right about how to manage Africa's resources," he said quietly. "Thank you," replied Traoré. "Even if it's late, I appreciate your understanding." At the International Mining Conference, President Traoré presented the Burkina Faso model for sustainable mining. Executives from major mining companies listened attentively. Just a few years ago, they dismissed his policies as unrealistic. Now they were eager to understand how the strategy they once mocked had worked. In only 5 years, Burkina Faso had transformed. Modern buildings rose across Ouagadougou. In rural areas, new schools, hospitals, and clean water systems were taking shape. The nation's GDP had tripled. Child mortality had been cut in half. Literacy surged from 40% to 75%. And the Blue Diamond Mine was no longer just a mine. It had become a center for education and technology, drawing students from across the continent. One quiet morning, Traoré visited his father's grave alone. He slipped the blue diamond ring off his finger and placed it gently on the tombstone. "Your mission is complete, Father," he said. "Blue Diamond belongs to our people now. Not just Blue Diamond, all our mines, all our resources." That night, standing on the palace balcony, Traoré looked over the glowing lights of Ouagadougou. In his hand was a small, matte piece of blue diamond, his father's last gift. "Do you see this, Father?" he whispered. "We're building a country even you couldn't have imagined." In the distance, the lights from the Blue Diamond Mine glimmered, no longer a symbol of wealth leaving the country, but of strength staying within. For Traoré, this was only the beginning. In a high-level meeting room, offers were on the table. "The offer is generous," said the sharp-eyed French CEO, LeBlanc. Liu, the Chinese official, spoke next. "Dragon Minerals offers $1.4 billion plus a $200 million commitment to train local workers." Robert Wilson, the American businessman, interjected, "Liberty Resources is proposing $1.5 billion and 12% annual profit sharing from mine operations." Traoré's economic advisor, Kabore, jotted down the numbers. "These deals could transform our economy," he whispered. "Thank you, gentlemen," Traoré said. "But before I make a decision, I want to hear why this mine matters so much to each of you. Because we all know Blue Diamond isn't just a diamond mine." The room tensed. Eyes shifted. LeBlanc cleared his throat. "Mr. President, Blue Diamond produces some of the rarest and highest quality diamonds in the world. Its blue stones command a premium in the luxury market." "That's it?" Traoré asked, fixing his eyes on him. Wilson jumped in. "Mines often hold multiple sources of value. Secondary minerals, logistical infrastructure." Traoré stood and slowly walked around the table. "Let me be direct. I know exactly what Blue Diamond is, and so do you." He stopped at the window. 3 days ago, I met an old miner in northern Burkina Faso. Joseph Konate. He worked at Blue Diamond 30 years ago. He told me a story you might find interesting. The room fell silent. A bead of sweat trickled down LeBlanc's temple. Traoré gestured to his assistant. Please, show the video. On the screen, an elderly man appeared, holding a faded document. My name is Joseph Konate. I worked on Blue Diamond's geological research team from 1990 to 1995. In 1994, during drilling in the southern section of the mine, we discovered a vast lithium deposit beneath the diamond vein. We reported our findings to Atlantis Mining, but the company buried the report. LeBlanc shot to his feet. This is absurd. Who is this man? These accusations are unfounded. Sit down, Mr. LeBlanc, said Traoré calmly. The video isn't finished. Konate continued. I worked with Amara Traoré. Yes, the president's father. We both knew how valuable that lithium was. A week later, Amara died in a mine accident. I survived, and I've been in hiding ever since the screen faded to black. Back at the table, Traoré laid out several documents. These are the original geological reports from 1994. And here, he said, unfolding a map, are internal memos from Atlantis mining executives. All of it confirms Konate's story. He pointed to the map. The true wealth of Blue Diamond is not diamonds. It's lithium. 15% of the world's known reserves lie beneath that mine. In today's world, where electric vehicles drive the future, lithium is more valuable than gold. The executives exchanged alarmed glances. Wilson tried to counter. These geological projections, well, they can be speculative. Further research would be necessary. The research was done by your own companies, said Traoré, and you knew the truth. That night, Traoré stood again on his balcony. He held the same piece of blue diamond left to him by his father. His economy minister, Dio, approached. The offers are extraordinary, Mr. President. Accepting one could enrich the country. Traoré shook his head. My father was a simple worker. He died in 1994 during a mine collapse. No compensation, no justice. Just this stone and a legacy of pain. He turned to Dio. But before he died, he told me, the real treasure isn't the diamonds. He and Konate discovered the lithium. They reported it and were silenced. Dio was stunned. Lithium? That changes everything. Yes, Traoré said, and we've confirmed it. It's the oil of the future. He pulled a worn notebook from his jacket. My father's geological notes. He mapped the lithium vein himself. Dio stared. So this meeting? A trap, Traoré said, to see how long Western companies have known the truth and how they've been trying to rob us. At midnight, Traoré met with his inner circle. Intelligence Chief Sankura opened a folder. The lithium reserves are at least 20 times greater than previously estimated. And the companies, asked Traoré. All three, Atlantis, Dragon, and Liberty, knew, Sankura replied. We intercepted emails. LeBlanc told his board 2 years ago. Start with the lowest offer. Africans don't know the value. Traoré's jaw clenched. Sankura added, we've also detected coup plots. France's DGSSE is funding opposition leaders. General Boubacar, Colonel Zeta, and former Minister Traoré. Keep monitoring, Traoré ordered, but don't move yet. First, we secure the mine. In luxury hotels across the city, the CEOs made calls. Don't worry, LeBlanc said into the phone. Traoré suspects nothing. Tomorrow we sign, and Blue Diamond is ours. Liu reported to Beijing. Our offer is highest. He can't refuse. The country is desperate. Wilson toasted at the bar. With this lithium, Detroit becomes the EV capital of the world. They didn't know Traoré had already set his plan in motion. The next morning, the hall was prepared. Media cameras rolled. The three CEOs walked in, confident. Traoré entered and took the stage. Distinguished guests, he began. Today we were supposed to sign a historic deal. LeBlanc smirked. Wilson adjusted his tie. But we are not signing the agreements you expect. The room buzzed. We are rejecting the proposals from Atlantis, Dragon, and Liberty. Gasps. Instead, I'm announcing the formation of the Burkina Faso National Mining Company. Blue Diamond now belongs entirely to the people of Burkina Faso. LeBlanc jumped up. This violates international law. What violates law, Traoré said coolly, is hiding lithium worth billions from us. He pressed a button. Emails, maps, and reports flashed onto the screen, evidence of the company's deception. Traoré turned to them. "The game is over, gentlemen.